Sometimes you want to get away from it all, but how far away from everything do you really want to be? How about sky high in the Peruvian Andes, 3 miles above sea level? Or perhaps on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean thousands of miles away from its nearest neighbour? The locales on this list are about as far away as you can be from anything else, and getting there is often no easy task, involving long flights, day-long drives, week-long boat rides, and in one instance, an 8-mile mule ride. If you like extremes, try these on for size. They're the most remote islands, towns and settlements on Earth.
Kerguelen Islands, French Antarctica. The Kerguelen Islands are located 2,051 miles away from any sort of civilization. There are no native inhabitants of the island, but as part of the French southern and Antarctic lands, it's permanently occupied by 50 to 100 French scientists, engineers and researchers at any given time of the year. The main island of Kerguelen goes by the morose title of Desolation Island and is surrounded by almost 300 lonely satellite islands. Massive active glaciers cover the main island, which stretches nearly 100 miles long and reaches 6,445 feet at its highest peak. The islands are so very remote that even if there was an airport, the harsh freezing climate and icy terrain make it an undesirable location for visitors. The only way to and from the island is by ship, but if you take that, it would basically be the worst vacation ever. A cabin is €15,000 and the ship departs only 4 times per year, so plan accordingly.
Casa Malaparte. Casa Malaparte is also known as the Villa Malaparte. It's located on Punta Mossulo on the eastern side of Capri, Italy. It's the best illustration of how modern and contemporary architecture can come together. Its construction started in 1937, and at the forefront was the architect Adalberto Libera for Cusio Malaparte. What's interesting though is that Malaparte rejected Libera's designs and built the home all by himself and employed the help of a local stonemason, Adolfo Amitrano. The striking house has a red masonry box shape and has stairs that lead to a magnificent roof patio. The house is on a dangerous cliff that is 32 meters above sea level. The house is only accessible by crossing the island on foot. It takes almost an hour and a half to trek to the summit. You have to be pretty determined to get there. Once you do though, you won't regret it. Casa Malaparte's interior and exterior are featured in the 1963 Jean-Luc Godard film Contempt, Le Mépris. Solvay Hut. This mountain hut seems to be in the middle of nowhere. It's the highest in the world at 4,003 meters. It's owned by the Swiss Alpine Club. It's hardly ever used unless there's a dire emergency. Built in 1917, 50 years after the first ascent of Matterhorn, which took place on the ridge, it has 10 beds and working radio telephone to be used by mountain climbers if there's an emergency. The name Solvay comes from the Belgian chemist and industrialist Ernest Solvay, who in 1904 donated 20,000 francs for the construction of the mountain hut. The building materials for the hut were transported with a cable rising from Honley Hut.
Foula, Scotland. Silence doesn't exist. Even in the quietest corners of our planet, there are always sounds. At the summits of the calmest mountains, you'll invariably still hear a faint whistle of wind. In Britain, home to 67 million noisy people, silence has become one of our most precious commodities. You'd expect it would be near impossible to find on these busy shores, but within just minutes of touching down on Foula, one of our most remote islands, some 20 miles west of mainland Shetland, one could hear just a few barely audible waves grumbling over a soundscape of nothingness. Silence to a British extreme that I'd seldom found before. Foula Island, part of Scotland's Shetland Islands, is home to a population of only 30 people who primarily earn their living as sheep and pony farmers. The island has been owned by the Holborn family for the past 100 years. Growing numbers of visitors are making their way to Foula as birdwatchers from around the world come to see its puffins, skuas, razorbills, gannets and more. Foula has some of Britain's highest cliffs, reaching 1,220 feet above sea level. The name Foula comes from the Old Norse for Bird Island. Inhabited since Neolithic times, the island is rich in historical significance and the community has a strong Norse tradition of folklore and music. There are great opportunities for birdwatching on Foula and a chance to join guided walks.
The village of Krakow, Italy. This one is an extraordinarily dangerous place, so much so that the families who'd been living here for generations finally gave up the thought of continuing. Now this village is a ghost town. Nobody lives here anymore. It seems like it's been lying uninhabited for centuries now, but in reality this village that looks like a pile of ruins was only abandoned near the end of the 20th century. Their reason being a landslide. This happened due to faulty pipework that failed. The landslide forced every single resident of this village to move out. It's now a popular tourist attraction in the region and is often used as a shoot location for movies and television shows.
La Rinconada, Peru. Sitting nearly 17,000 feet above sea level, La Rinconada in the Peruvian Andes is the highest human settlement on Earth. Despite the lack of running water and the dizzying altitude, the town has amassed a population of approximately 50,000. La Rinconada has no sanitation system and no plumbing, making the entire community one of filth and destitution. Trash pickup is non-existent. Most people bury their trash outside of town or simply leave it where it falls. But what drove all these people to live in a city of isolation and filth? Gold. Word got out that the area around La Rinconada was chock full of gold. Between 2001 and 2009, the town boomed with a 230% increase in habitation. Without regulations, the mines operate under an informal structure called the cachorreo system. Miners work through the month for no pay. However, after their shifts, they can take home as much ore as they can carry. But they never know how much gold is in the ore. Isolated, filthy, poor, sad. There are few good words to describe La Rinconada. This is one remote community that's not worth a struggle to visit, even if the greatest fortune could be found in its hills.
Hermitage of San Colombano. Located in Italy between Vicenza and Rovereto, it sits on the mountainside looking down on the city below. It's 120 metres above the ground. The house was built to be separated from the external noise. Being up the cliff ensures that it's not caught up in the hustle and bustle of the city. The city was built over 700 years ago and is named after the Irish saint Colombano. A story is told of how hermit San Colombano first set foot in the place and killed a dragon that was linked to the death of children baptized in the waters of the river below, Lino. The place is cared for by the inhabitants of the valley. The province of Trent in 1966 restored the church, and the opening to the public for visitation and pilgrimage is facilitated by volunteers who are known as the Friends of St. Colombano. To get inside the structure, you have to pass through the Lino Gorge and then climb 2 steep steps up the gorge. Every Christmas, there's a candlelight walk up to the Hermitage where the pilgrims who climb up the steps pay respect to the saint.
Hanging houses of Cuenca, Spain. Also called the Casas Colgadas or hung houses, these are located in Cuenca, Spain. This is a residential building complex. It's left over from the time in history when houses like this were the norm in that area, especially along the eastern border of this historic city. This place is located close to the ravine of River Hoica. You can witness in the footage that only a few of these houses are left standing. These have been used as homes over the past decades, such as council homes. One is used as a restaurant, while another was converted into the Spanish Abstract Art Museum. However, the most popular one of these buildings is a group of 3 structures having wooden balconies. What's weird is that even today the real purpose of making these hung homes is unknown. According to experts, these have known to exist far back into the 15th century, but they've been refurbished quite a few times. The most recent one occurring in the 1920s. This small village with mysterious homes is a must-visit for travellers looking to appreciate the quirky side of historic architecture.
Catsky Pillar. 130 feet above the hills of central Georgia, you'll find Catsky Pillar, overlooking the small river valley of Katskura. The locals consider it to be the pillar of life, and for a long time it remained unclimbed, unstudied and unsurveyed. All this changed in 1944, and between 1999 and 2009, more conclusive research was conducted that established that the place was an early medieval hermitage. Historically, Georgia is known to have adopted Christianity in the 4th century. The Catsky Pillar became the site of a small church that was built in the 7th century. The place had one single occupant for 20 years, a Georgian monk. What a view! The monk didn't need anyone's company. The fact that he was the sole recipient of the picturesque beauty was good enough company. By the way, women are not allowed to climb up the pillar.
Castellfollit de la Roca, Spain. This village is built on a narrow strip of basalt rock located in Catalonia, Spain. It's around 50 metres high, but 2 houses wide. Ordered by the confluence of Fulvia and Toronto rivers, this crag came into being thanks to the erosive action of the rivers on the lava remains of old volcanic eruptions. The houses are also made from volcanic rock, mostly. The village was built in medieval times. It contains dark, narrow streets and squares. The town has strategic value due to its naturally benefiting position for defense purposes. It's one of the smallest villages of Spain and is still inhabited by some very happy residents. The Church of San Salvador is present on one side of the cliff and dates back to the 13th century, like most other structures from the town. There's also a relatively modern part with swimming pools and facilities offering many leisure activities to residents and tourists. The dangerous location and the mystery surrounding this town have made it quite a popular site in Spain that's often featured in photographs.
Siwa Oasis, Egypt. As is the case with any true oasis, getting to Siwa is no picnic. Surrounded by hundreds of kilometers of empty Saharan desert, the remote village is best reached by a hired car or an overnight bus trip from Cairo. Tourists still make the trek to experience the community's idyllic palm groves, olive orchards and freshwater springs. Only this year was a solar power plant erected in the town to provide electricity. There's no cell phone service, and the oasis's isolated position has allowed the inhabitants' tribal Berber culture to remain largely unchanged throughout the centuries.
Nabida Italy. This one is quite like Krakow, but it's not entirely abandoned, as some people still live here. It's built at one insanely precarious location. The village mainly homes workers from the old lead and zinc mines of Nabida. The houses are built around a square and there's a workers' recreation centre, a health clinic, administration offices and even a church. About 3,000 people lived in the village around 1910. A third of these were miners. Nowadays, it looks more like a ghost town with a population of just 100 people. The mine had reached peak productivity by 1913 and the mining crisis of the 1970s led to the demise of this village. From where it's located, it seems like even mild winds could cause this entire village to collapse and slide into the sea. The town has received UNESCO recognition for being a vital component of the Geomineral Park of Sardinia.
Palmerston, Cook Islands. The remote island of Palmerston in the South Pacific was first settled by the Englishman William Masters 150 years ago. Today, all but 3 of the community's 62 residents are the direct descendants of Masters and his 3 Polynesian wives, who happen to be cousins. Part of the Cook Islands, Palmerston is made up of sandy islets connected by a circular coral reef which sits too close to the surface for seaplanes to land safely. The ocean outside the ring is too rough, so the island is only accessible by boat. In addition to reaching Palmerston by yacht or tourist ship, visitors can also try hitching a ride on the cargo ship that delivers supplies to the island twice a year. Vet Island Norway. For a place known as the loneliest place on Earth, a surprising number of people have tried to claim it. An uninhabited frozen isle halfway between South Africa and Antarctica, Vet Island is the most remote island in the world and perhaps the most remote landmass in the world. Located 1,404 miles away from the nearest humans, the 271 people who live on the island of Tristan da Cunha, which is incidentally the most remote inhabited island in the world, Vet is not without life, though its vegetation is limited to lichens and mosses, and its only fauna are seals, seabirds and penguins. For anyone who does end up near Vet, it's still incredibly difficult to actually set foot on the island due to the high glacial cliffs that surround it. The best way to get on the island is to fly a helicopter from the deck of a ship and delicately land on Vet's icy surface. Essentially, Vet is an ice-covered glacier surrounded inhospitable lump. Yet it has been an object of national desire, had at least 3 different names, and is even caught up in a mysterious episode of international intrigue. In 1964, an abandoned boat was discovered on the island, along with various supplies. However, the boat's passengers were never found. The identity of the travellers is still unknown. In 1979, a bright flash of light was seen between Vet and Prince Edward Islands by the United States Vela satellite. Known as the Vela incident, it is now believed that the flash was caused by a secret South African-Israeli joint nuclear bomb detonation, though neither country has officially admitted to such.
Naples, Italy. One may assume that a city located so close to the legendary Pompeii wouldn't survive for long, but Naples has managed to survive the eruption that Pompeii failed to. Now it might seem lava-free today, reality is a little different. The president of European Volcanological Society, Henry Gandrou, has deemed this city as the most threatened urban area. Naples is not just super close to the Mount Vesuvius volcano, it also sits quite close to a supervolcano called Campi Flegrei Fields. The lava flow is capable of reaching the city in 6 minutes, and it would take about 3 days to evacuate the cobblestone streets of Naples, which is honestly not ideal. The residents of this city sure have a lot to worry about, but they continue to live here like it's nothing.
Cooperpie Australia. Back in 1915, a 14-year-old boy found a gemstone in the remote southern Australian outback. From this discovery, Cooperpie was born, a remote, fiercely hot place of a few thousand inhabitants today, sustained by its supply of opal and curious visitors. As a result of the intense heat, a number of miners living in the town have chosen to live underground, either in the beginnings of old mines or in purpose-dug underground houses. This has continued with much of the modern town being built underground. Among the local public buildings found underground are 3 churches, a bookstore, an art gallery, a bar and hotels. Opals can be seen embedded in the walls of some of these hotel rooms. The daytime temperatures of Cooperpie in the summer get so high that most sporting activities take place at night. Golf played with glowing balls is a popular pastime. The town's unusual and bleak landscape, made even stranger by the mining efforts, has made it an attractive location for Hollywood. Cooperpie has appeared in a number of movies, including Pitch Black, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and Red Planet. One must be careful in Cooperpie, however. The area around the town is riddled with pits and caverns dug in search of opals. This is especially true at night, when one is out playing a round of glowing golf.
Venice, Italy. Italy seems like a popular place to build dangerous cities. Another insanely popular tourist destination in the world, Venice, has also managed to bag a spot on this list. Despite its beauty and the romantic experience of being taxied around town by singing gondoliers, Venice is not quite perfect. The city has always been at risk of flooding. After all, the city uses water canals as roads. Therefore, the high tides and winds can cause high water levels that may harm the city structures. Quite recently, in 2019, 90% of Venice was flooded after it encountered the highest water levels in 50 years. Unfortunately, the work on the city's floodgates that began in the 1980s is still not complete. The other problem Venice faces is the sinking, just like Jakarta. The city sinks 0.08 inches annually due to the rising sea levels, coastal erosion, groundwater pumping, and more. Besides that, the pollution and damage occurring due to the large cruise ships sailing through the city is a lot too. These were, however, banned in 2021. It's only a matter of centuries, though, when Venice will be remembered like Atlantis. Suspended houses of Pont on Royale, France. This place looks like no one can escape plummeting to death once they step outside. What you see isn't a scene from a movie. These are, in fact, multi-storey 16th century homes situated in the village of Pont on Royale. These houses are hanging over the very edge of vector cliffs. These homes were intentionally constructed here in this manner to hang over this precipice in order to utilize all of the space this plateau had to offer. The economy of this place mainly depends on tourism, as the houses have been classified as an historic monument since 1944. A peculiar feature of this village are the old outhouses that are no longer in use, but these old toilets are literally just planks of wood with holes in them and are suspended at a height of 10 meters above the river. Itavik, Greenland. What's harder than saying the name Itavik? Living there. Formerly known as Scoresby-Sund, Itavik is known globally as the remotest inhabited community in the Western Hemisphere. The 450 residents have settled between northeast Greenland National Park and Scoresby-Sund, the largest national park and fjord on Earth. For 9 months of the year, the sea around Itavik is completely frozen, shutting off all ocean travel. If you want to reach the town during those months, you can expect to hike in using a snowmobile or even dog sled. If emergencies occur or you need to leave quickly, the only way out is by a rare helicopter or via boat during the 3 warmer months. Due to the town's isolation, everything must be transported in during the warmer months when the ocean ice melts enough to allow ships into the harbour. Itavik is remote but does have quite a few creature comforts for its residents. Relying on the help of Denmark, Itavik has a power station and engineering workshop. A Danish doctor and nurse run a small hospital, and Danish teachers work at the small local school. The harbour master of the town can receive email and faxes via a satellite dish that allows him to remain in constant contact with the capital city of Nuuk on the other side of the ice cap. The town also features one grocery store, a few convenience stores, and a pub that's open 1 day a week. Many local residents are of Inuit descent. During the colder months, they rely on their traditional customs of hunting, whaling, and fishing to thrive. Another form of income for these remote people is providing Arctic tours and safari for those travelers who are brave enough to endure the frigid temperatures for fun. Ronda, Spain. On a tour of the sunny Costa del Sol, Ronda is a city well worth a multi-day diversion. This is an iconic Spanish city, one that bravely straddles the El Tajo Gorge and is best known for being the birthplace of bullfighting. The former Moorish bastion has captivated famous visitors like Ernest Hemingway and Orson Welles, and consistently impresses travellers with its long-running traditions, adventuresome vistas, and picturesque narrow streets. In Ronda, you'll find all the Spanish staples in the city's tapas bars and restaurants, in addition to typical Andalusian dishes like fried fish, gazpacho, oxtail, and more. The region's cuisine is heavily influenced by its Moorish history, especially in the desserts. Because sugar was first introduced in the 10th century, many of these recipes date back thousands of years. Take pastiños, the typical sweet treat in Ronda, which are deep-fried pastries slathered in honey. Because the city is located up in the mountains, you'll also find that the surrounding ecosystem plays a role on the menus of Ronda, in the form of game meat like rabbit and partridge, plus a wide variety of mushrooms. In the surrounding area, known as the Serranía de Ronda, there are many vineyards and wineries worth visiting.
Vestmannaeyjar. This house is on the enchanting island of Eliue, located on Iceland's southern coast. It's clearly on a remote, deserted island. Facing the wild Atlantic waves that rave upon the rock, who dares live there? This question has raised several conspiracy theories. Over the years, the island of Eliue has been featured a lot in reports and articles, with speculation over who lives in the isolated house. Around the 20th century, The Independent reported that the government had gifted the entire island to an Icelandic singer, Björk, and was meant to thank her for using her music to bring world recognition to Iceland. The report went on to explain that Björk wanted to build a retreat and recording studio on the island, and that the negotiations with the government were underway. This very exclusive arrangement never saw the light of day. Björk, however, disputes these claims. The house is a lodge that was built by the Eliue Hunting Association in 1953 for the association's members to use. The lodge has no electricity, running water or plumbing. What it has is even better. A relaxing sauna that uses rainwater collected using a special rainwater collecting system. It's listed as a nature reserve and a protected area. Some tour companies offer day trips to the beautiful location, whose little white house remains unoccupied.
New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. New Orleans is quite famous for the great food, great music, and great people it's home to. But another reason this city is famous is Hurricane Katrina. The deadly hurricane had destroyed part of the city and had caused a lot of casualties back in 2005. After 50 levees and flood walls along the Mississippi River failed, the city succumbed to floods. 50% of New Orleans is already below sea level, and then there's the Mississippi River flowing super close. The city has upgraded its flood control system since Katrina, but flooding isn't the only problem. NASA has revealed that parts of New Orleans are sinking at quite a rapid rate of around 2 inches per year. And with rising sea levels, there's a good chance that by 2100, New Orleans will be between 2.5 to 4 meters below sea level. These are pretty alarming figures. Centennial de las Bodegas, Spain. This is a town built into a massive overhanging rock. It's located in the province of Cádiz, Spain, and is constructed along a narrow river gorge. Many houses here are built into the rock. This was done either by enlarging already existing caves or overhangs. These rocks are great for providing shade year-round, but there's always a chance that the roof will come crashing down, bringing several tons of boulders with it. The place, however, seems quite safe, and it's also pretty popular for the great quality food served here. The meats and pastries are quite famous. The bars and restaurants here are regarded as the best in the region. Polignano a Mare. Located on Italy's southern Adriatic coastline, the town of Polignano a Mare is an ancient seaside town dramatically sitting above rocky cliffs and sea caves and offering sweeping views of the turquoise sea. Centrally located in Puglia, Polignano is not far from the region's two main airports in Bari and Brindisi that service flights from Rome. For reference, Bari to Polignano a Mare is a 35 to 40 minute drive. Brindisi is a bit further, at about 55 minutes from Polignano. Trains run frequently from Bari to Polignano and are a convenient option if you'd rather not drive. Keep in mind though, if you're planning a Puglia itinerary, your best option will be to rent a car. With a car you can easily reach other popular towns like Olbarobello, Monopoli, Ostuni and even Lecce further to the south. Plus, to really see and appreciate the beauty of Puglia, you need the freedom to explore at your own pace and where public transportation is lacking. Whether driving along the coasts or through sleepy towns and farmlands, you'll get a more authentic feel for this part of Italy. Migingo Island. Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa, is home to various types of fish and wildlife as well as one of the most isolated communities on Earth, Migingo Island. Made up of mostly fishermen, a population of 500 lives on the island, which is roughly half an acre in size. Not only is the island inaccessible to most without boats, but it's also a compact fisherman's slum. However, it was not always that way. In 1991, 2 Kenyan fishermen claimed to have been the first 2 men to settle on the island. At the time, the location was nothing but an infestation of weeds, birds and snakes. In 2004, a Ugandan man also claimed his settlement on the island. These men and so many others have made their way to Migingo Island because the surrounding deep water is home to large numbers of Nile perch, which provide income for fishermen. Living on the island is hard because it is incredibly crowded. Houses made of recovered tin and other scavenged materials comprise most of the homesteads. In addition, there are 4 bars, a hair salon, several brothels, and a tiny port. Prostitution runs rampant and filth plagues the island. Some people there have cellular phones to contact the outside world, but the signal is spotty at best. This is one island that is anything but paradise.
Red Cottage. This isolated place chooses the perfect name, Just Enough Room Island. It's an island chain in Canada. It's among the thousands of islands in the St. Lawrence River mounting the border of the US and Canada. It was bought by the Sizeland family in the 1950s. They wanted a cozy, nice place to build their holiday home. They built their house just reaching the edge of the island and gave the island its special name. The plan to get a haven backfired when the family had to deal with tourists who thought it a sightseeing opportunity.
Medog County, Tibet, China. Motuo, isolated in eastern Tibet as the only county with no highway link to the outside world among all of China's 2,100 counties, is the last county where the Brahmaputra River crosses over in China before it flows to India. As the remotest county in the southeastern part of Tibet, Motuo is located on the southern slope of the Himalayas. Covering an area of 30,550 square kilometers, the mysterious Motuo County is mainly inhabited by the Menba and Luoba ethnic groups, with a population of about 10,000. As a result, most of the local people, mainly of the Menba minority, are descendants of people who migrated from other places in Tibet more than 100 years ago. Although it's hard to imagine that one can enjoy tropical fruits such as bananas and pineapples in the snow-capped mountains, this really is the case in Motuo. Situated in the lower reach of the Brahmaputra River, Motuo boasts a typical subtropical moist climate. Meanwhile, standing 1,000 meters above the sea level on average, Motuo remains separated from the outside world by a halo of snow-capped mountains around it. Motuo State Natural Reserve is located in canyons at an average altitude of 750 to 4,800 meters and is home to numerous waterfalls and rivers, as well as rich flora from tropical to cold weather plants. As 1/10 of China's plant species can be found in Motuo, it has been dubbed the Natural Museum of Tibet, or Tibetan Botanical Garden. Plants from both frigid and subtropical zones are compatible and coexist on this small, isolated island.
Villa Mechlin. This stunning house is located in the Finnish archipelago. Villa Mechlin is a scenic and secluded space built in a small depression inside the natural rock. It's the ideal getaway to enjoy the great outdoors. The scenery can be seen clearly from the terrace. To build this house, basic materials were used. When you stand on one side of the structure, you see water, and when you stand on the other side, you see land. The home is made of local wood, and to keep the place warm, it's heated by a wood-burning stove. Since in Finland saunas are second nature, you'll find one a few meters away from the house for your pleasure. The sauna area is also made from the same local wood. The land is a marvel to the eyes, where you see trees, exposed rocks, and plenty of vegetation. The key highlight of the house is the cozy terrace, which looks out to the water and offers one an unforgettable view. Stockholm, Sweden. Just a few miles from Stockholm, Sweden, there's a lovely house located at the highest point of the island. It's stretched out to about 137 square metres. The house is hidden and very breathtaking. It includes a living room, guest room, a kitchen and glass doors that lead to a large deck. It has a sauna for you to relax and revitalise. But surely you don't need so much space for relaxing. Artist Studio, Fogo Island, Canada. Fogo Islanders are known to be simple and independent people. They're fishermen and appreciate greatly that they get to enjoy the beautiful landscape that surround them. On the island, you'll find 5 artist studios built by Shorefast Foundation. It was the perfect juxtapositioning of architecture against culture and community. The idea behind the studio design was to contrast the natural setting by setting up geometric structures that would somewhat stand out artistically. The studios stand on pillars near the sea and each is isolated and can be translocated to any part of the island. It's the perfect place for creatives such as painters, musicians, filmmakers, designers and writers to find inspiration without any distractions. As much as the studios seem modern, they try and stay true to the island's traditional fishing sheds with wood shells and supporting stilts, and when you study them closely, you'll see bits and pieces of this. Although the studios exist solely for the artists, curious visitors are welcome as long as they don't become chaotic and detract from the artists.
Hilo Hawaii. This city isn't built on the edge of something it could fall into. In fact, it's built too close to something that may overflow and destroy it. Yes, you guessed it right. Hilo is built on the edge of the largest volcano in the world, called Mauna Loa volcano. This one produces lava at a rate higher than any other volcano situated in Hawaii. A lot of its vents and rifts are alarmingly close to the city. In the year 1885, the land which is within the city limits was ravaged by the lava twice. In 1985, lava flow managed to come quite close, about 4.5 miles out of town. The locals don't consider it a huge danger as the molten lava from this volcano flows at an incredibly slow speed, leaving them with adequate time to evacuate. But that doesn't mean you won't be leaving your home and possessions behind to be destroyed by burning hot lava. McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Located quite literally at the bottom of the world, Antarctica is naturally one of the most remote places on Earth. Though there are no permanent residents in the frozen region, the continent does house seasonal researchers and scientists. The McMurdo Station, located on the northern tip of Antarctica, is the most populated research centre, with close to 1,200 scientists working in the area. However, the population drops to 250 during winter due to extreme climate. The station consists of more than 85 buildings, including harbour, helipad, stores, clubs, power plants, warehouses and 2 ATMs. Going there for fun is almost impossible. You need to be a scientist, a military person or an artist. This place is also one of the hardest places to get to in the world. The pilots need to be capable of landing the aircraft on ice as there are no paved runways.
Thatched Hut, Panama. At first glance, it looks like a scene from Gilligan Island. This little island with a thatched hut is the embodiment of peace. While modern huts are built with more solid material to ensure they are durable, this one is still pretty old school. The thatched huts are built in pole style, which is common in Panama. This kind of hut is in most cases home for an entire family. The materials used are tree trunks for the main pillar, multiple types of leaves for the roof, and bamboo poles for support. A thatched hut that's well made can last for 30 years. The house on the sea. Robinson Crusoe for sure lived in one like this, where he could map out his adventures. This splendid house is found off the coast of Cornwall, England. The house on the sea is situated right on the beach. To reach it, you have to climb across a 90-foot suspension bridge. If you have a fear of heights, leave it down below. Surrounded by nothing but water and isolated from the town, the tiny island is one of a kind. Its interiors are a luxurious mix of sleek neutrals and modern design. At every turn there's an offering of panoramic sea views that you can never get tired of. You can even set up a barbecue overlooking the sea and watch the waves by the bar area as you sip on your favourite drink.
Sphinx Observatory at Swiss Alps. Icy air streams across your face, snow crunches under your feet, and the view nearly takes your breath away. On one side of the Mittelland up to the Vosges, on the other side the Aletsch Glacier, bordered by 4,000-metre peaks. Standing on the Jungfraujoch, 3,454 metres above sea level, you can feel it with your first step. This is a different world. It's one you have to experience. Sphinx Observatory practically touches the sky. That makes it perfect for studying the stars, but ridiculously hard to get in and out of. Add to that the nearly constant presence of shifting snow, and just arriving there is a struggle. The Sphinx Observatory, completed in 1937, is a result of this influx of research. Perched on a shockingly steep precipice at the so-called top of Europe, the observatory is the highest altitude construction in the entire continent. With multiple laboratories, a weather observation station, astronomical and meteorological domes, and a 76-centimeter telescope, the Sphinx has served as a headquarters for researchers in fields such as glaciology, medicine, cosmic ray physics, and astronomy. And over the years, the building has adapted to meet scientists' needs. Today, the observatory is fully outfitted with electricity, water, telephone, internet, and even a machine to produce liquid air. In addition to the science, the observatory also provides visitors with vertigo-inducing panoramic views of the snowy Alps, green valleys, and the Great Aletsch Glacier. From the metal grating terrace that surrounds the building, one can see over 11,000 feet below, with views stretching as far as Germany and Italy.
Holy Trinity Monastery. This one is located in central Greece. Originally built on a meteor, it's one of a series of Meteora monasteries. Meteora means suspended in air. The Holy Trinity Monastery is the oldest among the 6 monasteries that are still standing and open to visitors. It's located in the town of Kalambaka. It was built in 1476. It sits atop a 1,300-foot rock. Years ago, the only way you could gain access was by climbing a rope ladder with only a net below. Today, things have been made a little bit easier, and you can reach the entrance by climbing 140 steps that have been cut into the rock. It's said that the place once had historical treasures such as precious manuscripts. Today, they can't be found, having been stolen during World War II. This monastery is so iconic it's included in the UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites.
Santorini, Greece. One of the most popular holiday destinations around the world, Santorini sees over 500,000 tourists annually, but we doubt many of these would be aware of the volcanic history of this city. Santorini was target of one of the largest volcanic eruptions in 3600 BC. The blast was so deadly that Plato is said to have used this city as inspiration while coming up with his story of Atlantis. This volcano is still active. The last eruption occurred in 1950, which wasn't that long ago. However, there's a more pressing issue the scientists are concerned about, and it's called Colombo. It's an underwater volcano in the Aegean Sea, and it erupted back in 1650. That eruption was quite devastating, and if another eruption of that scale occurs again, Santorini would face a deadly tsunami. All this information makes us want to reconsider our travel plans. Changtang, Tibet. They don't call it the roof of the world for nothing. Changtang is a giant high-altitude plateau located in the west of the Tibetan Plateau, which is itself more than 2.5 miles above sea level. So basically, Changtang, which has elevations as high as 4 miles above sea level, is the highest part of something that's already really, really tall. Changtang is a part of the Tibetan Plateau that extends from western and northern Tibet to Ladakh in India. It's spread over 990 miles and is home to Changpa, a nomadic tribe in Tibet. Changtang is home to nearly 500,000 nomads, but they are often difficult to find. A Swedish explorer, Sven Hedin, reported not seeing even a single person in 81 days while crossing Changtang. There's the nearest airport in Leh, though, through which you can access Changtang, but it requires a permit to enter. Supai Village, Arizona. The Grand Canyon is one of the most visited vacation spots in the United States. With its breathtaking views and desert-dwelling critters, the canyon provides tourists with an escape from reality. However, many do not know about the secluded village of Supai, which is located in a side branch of the Grand Canyon known as Havasu Canyon. The village consists of members of the Havasupai tribe. They have inhabited the area for the past 800 years. The Havasupai people, aka the people of the blue-green waters, thrive in this arid, solitary landscape by practicing irrigation farming in the summer, as well as hunting certain animals available during the seasons. The blue waterfalls and springs provide the Supai villagers with both their namesake and their water source for survival. The land in which the Havasupai live is a protected reservation. Just how secluded is Supai Village? The 208 residents are the only people in the United States who still receive their mail and parcels by mule. A series of linked mules carry packages and mail to the village regularly. Any mail leaving there also bears a postmark that is unique to Supai. Tourists are welcome to visit Supai and its natural beauty, but it will take some rugged skills and determination to get there. The village is located nearly 56 kilometers or 35 miles from the tourist hub of the Grand Canyon, and there are no paved roads to get there. The journey starts at the Hualapai hilltop. From this point, Supai can only be reached by foot, mule or helicopter. It is 13 kilometers or 8 miles one way to reach the bottom of the canyon where the village lies. Supai will remain a hidden gem in the American frontier. Utqiagvik, Alaska. Utqiagvik is the northernmost city in America and the 9th most northern city in the world. Formerly known as Barrow in Alaska, this town lies well above the Arctic Circle and is a very remote and cold town. Although the weather is extreme, archaeological evidence indicates that people have been thriving in the Utqiagvik region from as early as AD 500. The headland was explored in 1826 by Frederick Beechey and named for Sir John Barrow, the prominent British promoter of Arctic explorations. The native Inupiat tribe call the area Utqiagvik, place where owls are hunted. So just how cold is Utqiagvik? The city is built upon a layer of permafrost that's up to 400 meters or 1,300 feet deep in places. The warm season in Utqiagvik lasts a mere 3.3 months, with average high temperatures measuring 2 degrees Celsius or 36 degrees Fahrenheit. The cold season lasts 4.4 months, and the average high temperature is minus 16 degrees Celsius or 3 degrees Fahrenheit. Along with the extreme temperatures, the people of Utqiagvik also deal with polar night. Normally starting in November, the sun sets in Utqiagvik and does not rise again for roughly 65 days. Nevertheless, the area's 4,429 residents thrive. Over 60% are Inupiat Eskimo. Even in the Arctic tundra, these polar survivors have a great quality of life and modernity. Their homes are heated by natural gas from local oil fields. They also have modern water and sewer systems. Trash pickup is also available from the city. The town has 7 churches, various schools, Ilisagvik College. Communication is easy because there is phone, mail, radio, cable and internet. Want to visit Utqiagvik? You can take advantage of hotels, restaurants, a dry cleaner, a bank and a fur shop. Though modernity has a hold in Utqiagvik, the natives still take part in whaling and seal hunting to get them through the long, hard winters. However, you can only get to this remote island by plane, and it doesn't come cheap. So if you're interested in extreme cold, remote solitude and perpetual night, Utqiagvik might just be the best place for you. Longyearbyen, Norway. The world's northernmost settlement with more than 1,000 permanent residents is also the largest settlement of Svalbard, Norway. The few thousand people who call Longyearbyen home must abide by some unusual rules. First, it's illegal to be buried here because, according to Atlas Obscura, the permafrost and sub-zero temperatures make it so that any dead bodies lying 6 feet under are perfectly preserved as if mummified. Therefore, the government of Svalbard requires that any dead bodies must be flown by plane or shipped by boat to mainland Norway for burial. This law has been in effect since 1950. Second, it's illegal to be homeless. All residents must have a street address, the New York Times reports. Third, anybody venturing outside the city limits of Longyearbyen must carry a weapon and know how to use it. This isn't because residents are afraid of crime. The 6 local police officers only investigated 9 violent crimes in all of 2013. Instead, it's to fend off polar bears, which present a real danger, the Times reports. 2 more unique rules to follow. All houses have to be built on stilts, so when the island's layer of permafrost melts in the summer, the houses don't sink and slide away. And cats are banned in order to protect endangered Arctic birds. Villa Las Estrellas, Antarctica. When one thinks of Antarctica, images of endless ice and penguins come to mind. One does not often associate people with this continent, but some individuals do call the icy tundra home. Villa Las Estrellas, or Stars Town, has only 14 homes, 1 banker, a post office, a school with 2 teachers, a gym and a church. There is also a modest souvenir shop for tourists wishing to memorialize their visits. Though in Antarctica, Villa Las Estrellas is a Chilean town that's located on King George Island on the President Eduardo Frei Montalva base. The population is small, with only 15 residents during the summer and 80 during the winter. People serving time on the base are only there for 2 years maximum before returning to the Chilean homeland. The hospital on the island is equipped for basic life-saving procedures with a lab, anesthesia machine, operating room, sterilizer, x-rays and dental clinic. A small pharmacy is also available. However, with limited facilities and only 1 doctor and nurse, All major emergency cases must be flown to health centers in South America for aid. Not only is Via Las Estrellas remote, but it also comes with an ultimatum. If you want to live on the island for any extended amount of time, you must have your appendix removed. As there is only a doctor with basic training and no surgical expertise, all people, including children, must have their appendices removed before living on the island. If you're in the mood for Antarctic living and an average temperature of -2 degrees Celsius or 28 degrees Fahrenheit, Via Las Estrellas may be for you. Just remember to have that pesky appendix out before you get there. Oymyakon, Russia. Eyelashes freeze when outside. Frostbite is a bitter enemy of daily life. Cars are kept running constantly because their batteries will die due to the average winter temperature of -50 degrees Celsius or -58 degrees Fahrenheit. Sounds like the last place on Earth where folks would live. People do, however, live in this hostile environment year-round. Welcome to Oymyakon, Russia. With 500 brave souls as residents, Oymyakon has earned the title of coldest permanently occupied human settlement in the world. The nearest city is Yakutsk, a mere 927 kilometers or 576 miles away. A few hundred miles from the Arctic Circle, Oymyakon is dark for up to 21 hours a day. In 1933, the temperature reached an all-time low of -68 degrees Celsius or -90 degrees Fahrenheit. Life is hard, and so is the ground in Oymyakon. The constant layer of permafrost prevents farming because nothing can penetrate the hard ground. To get their nutrients and food, most residents subsist on nothing but high-protein foods. Food specialties in the area include stroganina, raw, long-sliced frozen fish, reindeer meat, frozen horse liver, and ice cubes of horse blood with macaroni. The frozen ground also prevents the use of pipes for running water and bathroom facilities. To answer the call of nature, one must make a brisk run to the outhouse. Oymyakon also faces difficulties with their remote location when it comes to dealing with the deceased. Due to the thick layer of permafrost, large fires must be lit to warm the ground and melt the ice in order to bury the dead. There are no conveniences in town due to the extreme cold and the remote location. Cars won't start because they freeze, and batteries are ruined at a terrifying speed. Any pipes for running water freeze within hours and become completely unusable. Pen ink freezes and electronics fail. Anything besides thick animal furs and hide do nothing to keep the cold from wreaking havoc on the human body. So the next time the heat has got you down and you're looking for a place to cool off, try Oymyakon, Russia. In a few minutes you'll be begging for that warm weather again. Iso Hotel Cerro Paranal. This remote place has some very extreme weather conditions and fierce winds because of its location. But like over in the Curculin Islands, the reason people stick it out comes down to one simple thing: science. For this establishment, situated on Cerro Paranal, a mountain in the Atacama Desert of the Chilean Andes, the word hotel is something of a misnomer, as it is closed to the general public. At over 2,000 feet above sea level, the harsh winds, baking sun, unpredictable weather and the high solar radiation threaten scientists' health. Only the most determined of people with something big to do dare tackle this place, such as to use the very large telescope which belongs to the European Southern Observatory and is the most powerful Earth-based telescope which requires an army of engineers to operate it. Hence the need for the specially designed and built hotel. Despite the extreme weather conditions and winds, there are also frequent earthquakes with a magnitude of up to 8.5 on the Richter scale. Halley 6 Research Centre. The Halley 6 Research Centre is also one of the most challenging and technically complex buildings ever built to exist in the harshest climate on Earth. It is the world's first fully relocatable permanently manned Antarctic research station that redefines polar architectures in engineering. The Halley 6 Research Area is the southernmost Antarctic station operated by the British Antarctic Survey and is located on the 492 feet thick Brunt ice shelf, which flows out to sea at an annual rate of 1,312 feet. Snow levels on the ice shelf rise by around 3.5 feet every year, with temperatures dropping to -69 degrees Fahrenheit. The research station was built centered around survivability, maintainability and livability, allowing the station to function reliably and economically as a home for dozens of scientists who live there for up to 18 months at a time. Pitcairn Islands. The Pitcairn Islands, a group of 4 volcanic islands in the southern Pacific Ocean, are part of the British Overseas Territory in the Pacific. Only one, Pitcairn Island, is inhabited. Only 50 people live on the 2 square mile landmass, and most of the residents descend from folks with a somewhat shady reputation. The people of Pitcairn are descended from the mutineers of HMAV, Her Majesty's Armed Vessel Bounty, and their Tahitian companions, according to the government website. The population has declined in recent years after the island was hit by a child sexual abuse controversy in 2004, when 6 men were imprisoned for sexual offences, including the mayor, the Telegraph reports. The government previously tried to give land away to anyone who would move there, but only one person applied. Svalbard Global. If you ever have any doubts that the people of our planet could work together to help keep each other alive, then all you have to do would be to look at the Svalbard Seed Bank. Located inside a snowy mountain on one island of an archipelago that sits between Norway and the North Pole, Svalbard is the world's largest global seed storage shed. It also happens to be the most isolated place on Earth. This building was designed to last. It can withstand temperature shifts, disease, and even natural disasters. With many species of plants, especially crops, disappearing by the day, having a place where people can preserve examples of different plants with their own unique genomes could very well one day be the grace that saves our population from starvation. Of course, if there is a worldwide catastrophe, chances are nobody's going to be able to reach the place to get the seeds out anyway. Yanjin, China. Yanjin is regarded as the narrowest metropolis in the entire world. This city is located in Yanjin County and it's built along the Nanxi River. With the river running in the middle, this city is surrounded by the mountains of Yunnan province on both sides. The city is the true definition of a city built literally on the edge. It's quite like a sandwich in which each side of the city being the bread and the river being the filling. At its narrowest point, the city measures about 39 metres, while at the broadest point it's 300 metres. However, the peculiar thing about this city is that there aren't many bridges here. It's surprising, as a city built on 2 sides of a river would need a lot of these for transportation. The homes in this city are built on pillars. This helps protect them from being destroyed when the water levels rise during flood season. Despite any precautions, this must be a frightening place to live. Who can sleep peacefully at night knowing that your house could potentially fall down a cliff edge or get carried away by floodwater any time? Besides the unconventional construction, the remote location of the city has also hindered its economic growth, but none of these disadvantages have managed to deter the locals, according to whom they would never consider living elsewhere.
Tristan da Cunha. No restaurants, no hotels, no credit cards, no safe beaches. This is the life of those living on Tristan da Cunha, the world's most remote populated island. These islands are in the middle of the Atlantic, in other words, the middle of nowhere. Tristan da Cunha lies 2,816 kilometres or 1,750 miles from South Africa and 3,360 kilometres or 2,088 miles from South America. The nearest landmass to Tristan is St. Helena, which is a mere 2,430 kilometres or 1,510 miles from the island. The first true inhabitant of Tristan da Cunha arrived in 1810 when American explorer Jonathan Lambert landed on the island and proclaimed himself as its ruler. Due to the strategic positioning of the islands, they were annexed by the United Kingdom in 1816. Today, Tristan da Cunha is thriving with a population of 267 people. These individuals have access to many major amenities, including a hospital with dental treatment, an operating theatre, as well as a grocery store. However, orders must be made weeks or even months in advance for grocery items, as everything must be shipped to the island from the nearest location. Though modernity has taken over, the remoteness of the island still causes many hardships. Traditional electricity is not available anywhere on the island. Instead, diesel generators are centrally located between cottages in the only town, Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. Tristan da Cunha seems like an introvert's paradise without any worries or anxieties. However, if this seems like a great place to settle down, be warned that the island is volcanic. Edinburgh of the Seven Seas sits at the base of a volcano that last erupted in the 1960s. So, if you love remoteness, cows, and the threat of volcanoes, Tristan da Cunha may be the right home for you.
Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch up my next video.